I'll be real with you guys. Very recently, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I'm like kind of dealing through that. So I know it's been a little chaotic lately, but that's kind of also part of why I was doing this series. Anyways, I there's this kid I met who also has a far worse situation than mine, but uh, his whole dream is to make a game, and so that's kind of why I started this particular series, was because I wanted to help out with that. He's super cool, so like I'm not gonna out anybody, but that's kind of what this is for. But it kind of, yeah, hit me in a moment, I guess you could say, where it's like, as long as you're around and you're doing your thing, like, and you've got the dream to make a game, like it's so powerful sometimes, just the way that hits us. So my dream is to make games. I'm gonna keep making games. If your dream is to make games, let's get it going. Learn how to do it right, do it in a way that you can figure it out for yourself, and that's kind of where we are. So just moving on from that, what we're doing today is a little mix of things. So last time we kind of went over just a little bit of how to understand the logic behind like the blueprint nodes, a little bit of how you can work with some of the pre-created things that come with some of the startup stuff in the engine in Unreal. And today we're going to go over a little bit more on the logic and how we can kind of figure out what logic we actually want to implement. Because again, I could sit here and walk you through a tutorial on how to do this and that step by step, but then you're just copying me. You're not learning how to make your own game. You're not really kind of getting yourself out there and spreading your wings and doing what you actually want to do. So what we're going to do here is I've got Clip Studio up, and we're going to go over a little bit on how to figure out what functions we want in the game. What are the mechanics? What's the logic? If I'm doing a game where I want to have these, like it's top down kind of roguelike, and I want to have these waves that are on a timer, right? So I want to have it where I have these AI spawning. They're coming in. There's different ones for each wave or each level, maybe depending on the map I'm on. And I want to have a global timer that kind of ticks away, that shows how long it's been, maybe like between each wave, or if you don't have a wave killed within a certain amount of time within that timer, maybe it'll reset, or maybe they'll just get exponentially harder. But I want to have a timer in here, and I'll figure out more about that later. So when I think about what kind of logic I want, when I think of global logic, it's something that kind of is running regardless of kind of what my character is doing in the background. It's a global thing. It's running on in the whole game world. So when I think about that, I might do let's say global. Actually, let's get a little bit better here. Let's say I've got a global timer that I want to do. And for my global timer, the functions I want in this timer, because this is an actor. Remember, we were talking about actors. It's a object in your world is an actor, right? It's a thing that holds data, that can do stuff, things like that. So that means it can have functions, right? So my functions will be up in here. Alright, so functions. And don't mind my awful handwriting. This is classic programmer handwriting. I apologize. So some of the functions I want for my timer, I want it to be able to, let's see, for this actor, I want it to be able to check what wave I'm on for one. So let's say check and save. Oops. Check and save what wave I'm on, right? So maybe it'll update wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. And then maybe have it, let's see, so if I want to have maybe on wave 3 I spawn like these, AI that are, I don't know, wolves or something, right? And if on wave 2 I would have it spawn, I don't know, zombies. I need to keep that in mind. So I also need an array. An array is just a list of kind of a item type, right? It's a bunch of them stored in one little spot, and we'll go over that. But so let's say if I wanted to have an array for each creature or AI that I want to spawn per wave. So if I want it to be per wave, well, I need to take the index of the wave. So let's say if I'm on wave 3, and wave 3 I want to spawn zombies, how do I know that for wave 3 that this is what this is. How do I say that in my array? I could use something called maps, and we'll get to that in a second too. So a map is two things. It is it's a key, right? So a key, and then it's the value. And you can use the key of a map. You can use the key of a map to look up the value. So if I make the key if I make an array of this map array of my waves, right? Then each key could be like the wave number, so the index or whatever, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. And then I look up that key, so let's say it's, 1. I look up that key and I get the values, and the values are telling me, well, it's an array of zombie type. Actually, that was supposed to be a 3, but whatever, you know what I mean. It's telling me it's an array of zombie types. So this is a really great way to store this data, and I could just go in here and edit this whenever I want. And again, I'll show you how to do that. But this is kind of how you think about functionality. I have an actor that's global that is going to check my waves, and this is all outside of my character. This is just going to be running in the game on a loop. It's going to be checking all this stuff. It's part of the game's loop, part of the game's process. Outside of my character, outside of my player controller. That's what makes it global, right? So I have my global timer. I want to have it so I can check and save waves, right? So this has to do with this part right here. Okay. Checking and saving waves. And I also want to have, let's see, well, we might have some other stuff we can run off that, but I think right now that's actually fine for a start. So this is, again, a global. So then let's go to what would be a non-global. What's a local function or a local kind of mechanic, right? Because mind you, this functionality is run in an actor. This actor is doing this global function. But I also want to run some stuff on my character. So let's say on my character, I want to have some stuff just only specific to that character. What if I wanted to make this a multiplayer game? If I want to make it a multiplayer game, well, obviously I can't have it running on global because every character is going to be different, right? It would be running through a network that would be controlling all this information per character. So we need to save this information on the character. If you are only doing a first person, or first person was the term, single player. If you're only doing a single player game, you can technically save it on the player controller, but I really don't recommend that. I think it's really important to start with kind of really clear, good methods out of the gate when you're learning to program, and I really think that if it's any data that has to do with the character, it should always be stored on the character. So for the character, let's see some basic things. I need to know what my health is, right? And if I know what my health is, so this is a variable, right? My variable is my health. I need to know what my variable, my health is. Well, how am I going to change this if I'm getting hurt or if I'm healing? I need to have two functions for that. So one function is, we'll say take damage, right? And another function is heal. So whenever now these functions are again running on my character because it's only going to impact this character. It's not going to impact anything else. But whenever I get hurt, what we'll do is we'll feed in that damage. So we'll get the AI who does, let's say, however X amount of damage when they hit me. When they hit me, they'll do a certain amount of damage. I take this damage amount, I feed that into my character, and that goes into this function. Remember when we were talking last time about functions, how you can pass in a number into the function for it to process that? This is a perfect example. So the number that we're going to put into this function, take damage, the input we're passing into that is going to be damage amount right here. And then when the AI hits me, it'll say, well, I hit you for this much. I'll take that damage, I'll reduce my health variable with that, and then we'll end up going from there into updating our UI. So this is a very basic way of writing out kind of a basic game plan for functions. If you want to know more about how to really work out building your game kind of from the start without just jumping into the code and being like, oh no, I didn't think about this thing, I should have thought about it, now I'm really messed up, look into how to do a game design doc. I can put in some links or something if you guys want in the comments. Whatever, and maybe at some point we can go over what a game design doc is. But a game design doc is kind of like your Bible of how your game works. It's got the functionality, it's who the characters are, what the story is, the art style, all that stuff. It would be in there. So we can go over that too if you want. Just let me know. But this is just a basic idea of what we have here as these local functions and local actor, right? Local functions in this local actor, and these global functions in this global actor. So next we're going to do is get to implementing a little bit of this. So first, why don't we, we'll go into our global timer, I think. We're going to need, obviously, to know what the time is, so we'll do a print, but after that, I'll teach you a little bit, probably in the next video. If we don't go after setting up the character stats here, which we're going to try to do this one, I'll do it in the next one, and then after that, we'll do the UI, and I'll teach you more about how to set up UIs and how to interact with them. But, I kind of have to keep it limited just because my energy is a little low. I'm, in treatment and stuff like that, so it's kind of kicking my butt, but we'll work through it. Alright, so let's move on and get back into our game. Alright, so we're back in the game here. We got our little tutorial, not map, but our little tutorial project here, top-down tut. And what we're going to think about here is, now remember the image that we were just looking at? We need to have a global actor, which is kind of our timer guy. And we might use it later to kind of control other things like, score system and stuff like that, things like that. But we'll figure that out in time. Right now, let's just make a new actor. So if I right click, I can go to Blueprint class. And these are just a list of a lot of kind of the default classes that come with Unreal. Various types of actors and things like that. Almost all of these are either some kind of object or actor. And we're going to make a new one. And right here you can just see this says actor. Alright. So this is, I'm sure you're very familiar. I was describing this in the last video. If you want, again, more information on what is an actor, you can go watch that. But we're going to just go ahead and select this. It's going to make a new one here. Now, when you're naming things, naming convention really matters, especially because very quickly you're going to have a lot of these. So this is a blueprint. This is an actor blueprint. So I usually start with, which is really common here, I'll start with BP for blueprint. That way I know that this isn't just a pure C++ class, it's an actual blueprint class inherent from the actor C++. So I'll do BP underscore, and then let's call it global timer. You can call it whatever you want, but when you're referencing it, make sure you get the name right. Okay, so we've got that. We're going to save all here. It's important to save your brains out, save a lot. Then double click to open that up. So we've got these guys here. These are just kind of, again, defaults that come with it, with the actor. It's got these little events here, begin play, a check for maybe if something is overlapping, and this is our tick. Be careful with tick. You can use tick for things, but if you do, it's always good to try and be very limited with them. You can use them, just don't go crazy, and if there's another way, use the other way. Alright, so looking at that picture again, let me see here if I can get that up. Okay, so looking at this picture again, for our timer we want to have a function called check and save wave. But to check the wave and to know what wave we're on and to get the information, we need to have a variable, and we're going to go with a map. So we're kind of jumping a little bit into more complicated variables, but to be honest, variables in themselves, they're really not that complicated. They're just bits of data. They can be, like I said, a string, a number. It can be, like a string is just text. It can be a number, it can be a float, which is just a decimal number. It can be all kinds of stuff. So we're gonna make an array of a map array. Okay, and I'll show you how to do that here. So if we go down here, we've got my list of variables. These are the variables in this actor. So the global timer actor, these are the variables in it. These are where the functions will be in this actor, and this will be the events in this actor. So they're all contained inside of this actor. So we're gonna add a new one. And we're going to name it, let's name it wave data. Okay. Now if we look over here, I pull this over a bit, because I have this selected, so if you see it'll change depending when I was selected, but I have this selected. Go over here, and with this variable type, I drop this down, and I can type in, I don't need to type, let's just go with integer. The reason why we're going with integer is because if you remember here, looking at that image, one second, let me grab that again. Looking at this image, so we're going to use the waves index. So if we're on wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, that means the key, which is going to be that important number here, is going to, well, it's a number, right? It's a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, right? So, and then, now that we have that set, we're going to click on this little guy. You see where it says map? You select that. So, this is still an integer, but this is our key now, right? Or it's our key, which is this guy. And then we need our value, which is part of an array. So for our value, we want to have probably an AI type, right? Well, if the AI is a type, it's a type of variable, right? It's a variable. We are pointing to a certain type. And we have an array of them. Maybe we have got 4 of them, maybe we've got 3 of them, maybe we've got 6 of them. But we want to have this array of a type. Now, I might have zombie, I might have werewolf, I might have vampire, or whatever. I mean, I don't know, I'm going high fantasy here for some reason, but they're all going to be a AI type, which means that there's going to be this master class, right? This master class would be the AI type, that may be called AI master, which is really common kind of terminology, so you know it's a master class. And then these little guys will inherit from that. So you'll have a zombie that is of type AI master. You'll have a vampire that is of type AI master. That means any of the code that I put into the AI, it'll pass that code over to the zombie or the vampire or whatever, and then I can just make a collection of these however I want. So it gives me a ton of control, and it's very easy to change, and it's very optimal. This is called object-oriented programming, which if you're interested, you can look into that too. Really cool stuff. It is a great way to do game development. And so I don't have a type there yet, but what I can do is just give something temporary. So let's make it a string, which is just text. And we're just going to leave it at that right now, because what we're going to do is test it out. So on this tick, let's do a print string. And a print string, all that does, and this is the cool thing, if you just hover over it, it tells you exactly. All of these, pretty much, for the most part, you hover over it, it'll tell you what it does. But it literally just prints the text to the screen. So click on that. And then the text is this text here, and I can make this whatever I want, right? So what I can do is if I get my wave data, and I, oops, go to values, so I just take this again, drag it out, and just get, and then I pull off of here. This is my variable, remember, my variable for my data. I pull off of here and I type values. Oops, values. I can get this information. Because I don't need the index really so much as I need the value, right? And we're just going to get the first index in there. We can alter this later. But right now, let's just get the first one. So get a copy. The index right here is 0. So this is why this is, again, useful. Because that's going to be our key. Eventually, when we want to figure out which wave it is, we're just going to get that key. And we're going to plug it in right here, and then we'll get whatever that value is, and it'll be that character array. And we're just going to print that out. So let's compile and save. Always save your brains out. And let's just add one onto this. So if we click on this guy right here, or if we can click on it over here if we want, it'll open this up again. And you see where it says default values? We can actually add to this. So I can add one here. So that's 0. Let's name it vampire. Add another one here. Oops, I need to compile that first. Add another one. Oh, I see. There we go. So you can't have the indexes the same. It'll have a tissy fit about it. We'll change this in a minute. Add another one here. We'll call it zombie. And we'll add, I'm gonna change that. One more here. Number 3. And we'll call it werewolf. So let's see, let's say I want to get number 2, zombie. Right? Not 1, not 3, I want number 2. That's the wave that I'm on. We'll pretend that's the wave we're on. So if I'm doing this right, it'll print out zombie, which means later, whenever we're updating our new wave, we'll just get whatever the data is for zombie, and we'll just load them up and start spawning them in. Okay? So let's compile and save one more time. And again, this is running on event tick, so it'll just automatically start up and just start printing this out the moment that it's in there. But first, we need to put it in the game. It's not in the game yet. There's nothing in here. There's just all these blocks and kind of stuff that's, you know, like obstacle course stuff and this little player start guy. So let's pull it in here. To do this, we can literally just take this global timer, grab it, and drag it in. Check that out. And it'll just work. So I'm gonna move it up here a little bit. And now, if we play the game, watch what'll happen. Because remember, that event tick just automatically will start running. And there you go. So we've got our werewolf here. And then if I F8 again will let you move. So the game is still running, but it lets me unlock myself from the character, and I can F8 to get back into it. But see, it's printing werewolf, and if I go back over here, my wave data... Oh, it's getting number 3. Oh, I'm sorry. So... okay, not to be confusing here. So this actually... So these numbers here, these are the indexes we will pull. Right now, because of the way this works, with this get, technically the first index is 0. So this 1 is technically 0, this 2 is technically 1, and this 3 is technically 2. I'll go over that a bit more at a later time, just don't worry about it, but it is technically this 2 is this 3 here, because it actually starts indexing at 0 and then 1 then 2. So if I take this, I stop it, and then I just make these 0, 1, 2 to match that, it'll actually reflect it better. And you probably should do that just because it's better for programming to start with an index of 0 than to start with 1. So we'll do that again. And this time, we've got werewolf popping up there. And then, again, if I hit F8, we've got werewolf is number 2 right here. So we're getting number 2, there's number 2. There you go. Alright? So then, okay, I have it printing. Well, obviously printing isn't going to spawn anything for me. So what do I need to do to actually get these AI creatures? Well, again, we're going to do a masterclass, because what's the point in doing a bajillion different types of AI if I can just do that, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my content browser here. I'm actually going to make a new folder because we want to keep super organized. So we just call global actors and just grab this guy, grab him and drag him, hit move here into there, keep that nice and organized. And then let's do a new folder as well, and we'll just call this AI. So we open this up. We're going to right click. We're going to make another class. So remember that anything that's in the world is an actor, so it's almost always some sort of actor. But there's also types of actors. So pawn, character, all these things inherent from actor themselves. They're types of actors as well. A pawn is a type of actor that can be possessed, which means that it can be moved about by a player or a controller, including AI. And a character is a type of pawn. So there's actor, pawn is a type of actor, character is a type of pawn, and they have the ability to walk around. Well, that's pretty useful to me, especially if I want to make an AI. So let's just click on character. Again, since this is a blueprint, we're going to do a BP underscore. Oops, someone changed that for me. And then we'll just call it AI master. So let's go ahead and save that and open this guy up really quick. We're just going to do a real quick thing here, and I'll show you kind of how to make this neat. So if I go to my viewport here, there's this empty capsule. We went over capsules before, so I won't go over that crazy right now. But let's give it a mesh really quick. Just any kind of old mesh will do. Maybe not that guy, actually. I want to do one of the newer models. Manny. Alright. Manny looks cool. Let's drag him down a little bit. He's kind of floating there. Rotate him so that he's facing the same way as this arrow here. It's coming out of his business. And then over here for animation mode, we need to make sure that we're setting this. And we're just going to choose this one right here, AVP Manny. It just comes with this version, this package for Unreal. Just comes with this project. And select that. You can see he's all ready to go. And we're just going to save it. We don't need to really do anything else from there. At least right now. So I've got that, and I've just closed him down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to right click. We're going to create a child. So whatever code that this AI master has will pass into all of our children, and we can also change and update it, even the way it looks and stuff like that, which gives us a ton of control, and it just makes it so much easier to optimize and to build onto and not have to reprogram every single AI from scratch. So let's just do that. We'll call BP AI Zombie. Okay. Open that up. Let's doing this again. And then, just so that we know it's different, let's just take his material here. And we'll change it to, maybe not that one. Something, just something different. No. Let's see here. Let's change it to the world grid material. So his kind of light thingy there is gone, right? I'm going to copy that, paste it onto this one. So he's just got the basic world grid material. We'll be able to see that he looks different if you look at these two. If you look at this guy, open that. He's shiny, so that's the master. The zombie is not. That's the only difference between them. So, over here, back in our global timer, if we get rid of these here and we do our wave, so let's move this up to begin play instead. We don't really need these. So what we're going to do, sorry, I had a little bit of a blip there. So what we're going to do here is where the string is, we don't need this anymore. We're going to actually make that reference an actor and then spawn it. And so to do that, since we have our master class, I can just type in AI master here. Get a reference to that for class. Make sure it's class because we don't have any objects, actors in the world that we want to access. We want to access the class so we can spawn actors, right? We don't want to, you know, look for something that already exists when we're trying to make new ones. And we're going to go with class reference here. I'm going to go ahead and change that. And then over here, you'll notice that this is cleared out, so don't worry about this. This isn't where we're going to set this right now. We're actually going to go over here. And we're going to take this into our construction script. And our construction script is something that runs before the game starts playing, or rather before this actor starts playing. So if the game starts playing and it goes to activate this actor of the global timer, this is the first thing that will happen before it even starts playing, which is what we want. Because we're going to add, you see here, if I drop this down, I now have anything that is of the type AI Master will show up here. So I want to add a zombie, right? I'm going to add a zombie, and I'm going to add it at index 0. But I am also, just control, copy pasted there, control C, control V. I am also going to add, let's see, at index 1, just AI Master, so they should look different. So zombie will be index 0, AI Master will be index 1. Alright, so, and then we're going to go here, we're going to get our values, right? because now that's set in the construction script over here, we don't need to set it on this guy anymore. So make sure if you still have any of these here, just hit the trash can to get rid of them, because we're going to get our values now. We're going to get, and then here we're going to actually drag this out and promote this to a variable. So you can either do it here where you can click the button, or you can just drag it out from here. But the reason why is because we need to know what wave are we on. We want to get that wave. And since the wave is going to change, well, we want it to make sure it's the right wave. Now, we are running this on the gameplay, but later we'll run it off a function that just is going to be our get next wave function, where we can just filter through this, and it'll be very, very easy to do. So if we're just getting the next wave, promote that. We'll call that wave. Compile, and then over here the default is 1, which is good. We want that actually. And then we have, so we're going from our wave data, right? Based off of the image that we made. We get the key. So let me just hold on here. So we get the key, which is going to be our wave. Whatever wave we're on is that key. We're going to get the value from that's associated with that key. And then we're going to spawn that creature type, that AI type. So we just drag from here. We do spawn. You'll see it's a spawn actor from class. There's this one as well. I don't have as much familiarity using this one, but might use that later. But right now, just go with spawn actor from class, because we also don't have navigation plugged in. We're just going to spawn it. And then we're going to get... We need to transform. Right now, we'll just... Let's see... Let's get our own transform, which is basically just where are we. This is if I right-click this and then split it, you'll see it's got my location, my rotation, and my scale. It's just the location, rotation, scale of this actor that we're spawning, how we want it to be. So if we just right-click and just get transform, we're now getting the transform of our global timer. We generally wouldn't want to do this. We would want to plug in where we want them to be at, but we don't have anything for that yet, so we're just going to do this temporarily. For collision, we'll just do try to just location, but always spawn. And yeah, I think that'll be enough. So begin play. If we're doing it right, it's going to get our first index, and we know based on what we put here, it should be the zombie. So we don't want to see the glowing guy, we want to see the zombie. So if we're doing this right, we'll see him spawn. And there he is. He's spawning where our global timer is. And as you can see, he's not glowing. He is, in fact, our zombie that's just sort of floating in the air. Alright, so F8. Close that. Let's actually take our global timer here and move it down a little bit. And then save that. So if I want to change this, so let's say that my next wave then is wave 1. Or remember that we're starting on 0. So 0 is our first wave, 1 is our second wave, and so on. Keep that in mind. So if we do this right, wave 1 should just be our default AI master here, the glowing guy, right? So if we do this right, it'll give us a glowing guy. And there he is. So you could see how the functionality works, and you could see how when we just took a minute to sort of draw up this really simple image to get an idea, okay, how do I want this to work? I want this kind of timer thing. We've drawn this up. We've drawn up the functionality there. This is the code. And then we're using these blueprint nodes to implement this code so that it does what we want it to do in the game. So in the next one, what we'll do is we will have it where we'll have the players, because I don't really have time for it this time, we'll have the players' health where they can take damage, where they can heal themselves and potentially update a UI. And then we'll move on to where we can set up the AI to actually run around and do stuff. AI is really fun to program. It's not nearly as hard as people think it is. I'll show you. It's super, super easy. It's super, just, it's streamlined. It's not that hard. It's just about logic. And that's all this is. It's just logic. So that's where we are now. That's enough of this video, I think. I'm gonna go relax for a bit, and I'll be back with the next video probably in about a couple days. We'll say maybe I'm trying to aim for every 2 or 3 days. It just depends. I just started chemo and it is absolutely kicking my butt, but I will at least get one of these out per week, at the very least. So if you have any questions, if you have anything else you want to address, let me know. Some people are posting a few things that they want to see. I am seeing those. I see you. We'll get to it. I promise. Don't worry about it. All right. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.